uploaded and fine and work. So for everyone who's watching on YouTube, I will not be looking at the camera talking because I'm looking at my phone. But thank you to everybody so far who's joined me on Instagram for this live. So I'm going to be talking this evening about the full moon in Scorpio. So the full moon in Scorpio is this Thursday, the 7th of May. And in terms of, I'll be honest, I'm not massively talking about the full moon in Scorpio. It's just that date that you need to bear in mind. What I will be talking about is the release of the annual blueprints and the message that I've basically had through in terms of these blueprints, which has literally blown my mind. Everything at the moment is blowing my mind in terms of the information coming through. But this is key. In terms of this release of the annual blueprints, it's absolutely key, not just for us this year, most certainly not. It is key for us on a personal level, but the collective level is kind of insane in terms of that collective level and how much it is key. So what a few weeks ago I had put a story on Instagram, like I would do, asking for feature requests, and the request I'd put out was for, and I'm just going to say quickly actually, thank you to Amber for sharing. So what I had put out on Instagram was a request for people to do the different full moon features and new moon features that are coming up over the next couple of months. And I'd actually put an added note next to the full moon in Scorpio, which is the 7th of May. And so what I had picked up was that it's big and there's going to be some kind of portal energy. I hadn't tuned into it, so I didn't know exactly what was going to be going on. But I knew that, you know, when you have that sense, that knowing that's there within you. And the other thing that was coming through for me was that this full moon in Scorpio was going to massively link to the Lion's Gate, and the Lion's Gate is 8th of August. Lion's Gate, same date every single year, and that's that big 8/8 portal, which is crazy and insane and amazing energy. I love the Lion's Gate. What's not to love about the Lion's Gate? Anyway, so that was that. Left it at that. Nobody had got back to me. Hello, Melody. Thank you for joining. No one had got back to me about doing the 7th of May. Now, I now realise over the past couple of days, it's because I'm meant to be doing the 7th of May, doing the full moon in Scorpio. And while I was just going through my notes, preparing for Chakra Sundays, so going through my notes in my journal, I found something that I had written in January or February this year. And I had written that the full moon in Scorpio, what basically happens on the full moon in Scorpio, and I didn't have this channel to me, I'd read it somewhere and have since found it in many places. So this is common knowledge. On the full moon in Scorpio, every single year, the crown chakra of the earth opens up and delivers the annual blueprints. The crown chakra of the earth is Mount Kailash. I think that is how you say it, Kailash, in Tibet. Now, this release, hello my darling John Luca, this release of the annual blueprints happens every year when it is the full moon in Scorpio. The people in that region of Tibet, they know this, they honour it, they celebrate it, they meditate with it. Now, this doesn't happen like, so, you know, like we walk out the house and there's great big full moon there and we're like, yay, full moon. Right, no, so what you need to look at is the time when, for whatever region of the world you live in, now I know most of you here on this feed will be from the UK, you need to see when the full moon will be at 100%. Now, I've done you all a favour, I've checked it out. The full moon will be at 100% at 10:45 in the morning of Thursday the 7th of May. What you then need to do is go back 90 minutes. The release of the blueprints is 90 minutes before the full moon is at 100%. So this is key, this is important. Now, if we're looking at I've got loads of notes, so I will be kind of going to my notes. Right, so if we're looking at Mount Kailash in Tibet, it's considered the roof of the world. It's 22,000 feet high. It's the most sacred mountain of the Himalayas. It's also the location for the annual full moon in Scorpio. So this is a case of it being every year. Attempting to climb Mount Kailash or Kailash, I can't say it, I'm really sorry people. But it's spelled, let me spell it for you so you know, Kailas, and sometimes it's got, I suppose depending who's writing it, got an H at the end as well. So it's considered to be an offence to climb, it's considered to be an offence to the realm of spirituality to climb it. The Tibetans consider it to be an offence. Now, if you think about it, how many of us are trampling over sacred land? And we will get to that in a minute, because this is a massive part in terms of the annual blueprint. What this full moon in Scorpio, if you think about that Scorpio energy and it being the death and rebirth type energy. So in terms of that full moon in Scorpio, the whole fact of it being over the Earth's crown chakra, each year that's its placement over the Earth's crown chakra, and this release of the annual blueprints, it's basically that start of a new evolution and a new cycle of energy. It's a new year in terms of global evolutions. So global, that's important. Bear that in mind, global evolutions. If you think about the crown, in terms of that crown chakra, it's about our true purpose, our true will, that whole connection. So I'm going to say that again. 90 minutes before the Earth is at 100, but before the full moon in Scorpio is at 100%, is when the release of the Earth's blueprints happen. And for here in the UK, that would mean tuning in from 9:15 in the morning, because the full moon in Scorpio will be at 100% at its culmination point at 10:45 in the morning of Thursday, 7th of May. Now, so basically, in that sense, there's that release of info, not just annually. That info that it releases in terms of these blueprints is for the longer term as well. It is going to be for a period of time. So you'll get, I suppose, your main bulk for the year until the next full moon in Scorpio. In terms of those annual blueprints, they will be personal, but more than anything, they are collective. It's a global, it's a world, it's a earth blueprint that's being given. And I suppose what is good in terms of trying to connect is you're gonna, in that connection, as it approaches that culmination point as well, you're gonna get an idea of, I suppose, for your own personal, like the design. What is the design of that blueprint? What is the detail of that blueprint? Now, what I am personally getting is that this year's blueprint is going to give us a massive indication in terms of the next 6 to 18 months. So a really big indication in terms of the next 16 to 18 months. I'm just going to get myself a cushion. And I'm just going to light something because I just felt some funky energy just come in. So it's definitely a case of next 16 to 18 months is what we're going to get some information through for. Sorry guys, because some of the stuff I'm going to say, someone don't want me to say it, but I am going to say it. Okay, so, and that's sage grown here in England. There we go. Okay, so that's much better. So there's a couple of other things that came up, right? So what I got through personally was that 6 to 18 months. 6 to 18 months, there's going to be a massive focus in terms of these blueprints and the info it's going to bring through. What we then have is also, I was kind of getting the next 10 years, we'll be kind of getting an insight into the next 10 years, but I've kind of been given more specific time points. So one of those time points is, we're 2020 now, so 3 years time. So 3 years, we will get something through specifically for in 3 years time, 2023. And then the next point, I feel that's of importance, is 2027. So we are looking at 7 years time. So 7 years time, 3 years time, and the next 6 to 18 months. Now, don't expect in your 3D humanness to be like, which we all do, to think that as this energy comes and you may feel that in it. Listen, if you've had an activation from me recently, and I'm calling it an activation rather than ascension guidance because it was a complete activation of the light body, you're going to feel some stuff. If you connect with that energy 90 minutes before, you're going to feel that shit come through. You're going to feel it. I'm telling you now, you are going to feel it. But at the same time, release that expectation that things are going to be happening quickly. This is stuff that has to play out over a period of time because there is big things going on. Now, I think what we all need to realise and recognise, and that especially in the spiritual community, yeah, that as much as we want to be up in this love and light and out of ego, yeah, we do need to be out of ego and all of that stuff. At the end of the day, we cannot discount things that are happening in the world today. And where I feel I am going to possibly be leading you all on now is why we are at the point we are at, and that will bring into, I suppose, alignment where these blueprints will be taking us. Now, I don't know what the blueprints are because today's the 5th of May, so I can't know what the blueprints are. They have not been released, but I have an idea in terms of the energy. And I tell you what, this has all come through to me. I'll be honest with you, part of me is like a little bit shaky even, because I'm like, did you really bring me through this stuff, and why have you made me be the person to deliver it? But at the same time, I know why. Now, there are different cycles, so these are things for you to research and look into. I don't know loads about them for whatever reason. When I've got time, I will look into them. But this is your own kind of work. Because at the end of the day, you can't just take everything that someone says and just be like, oh yeah, cool, that's going to happen. Do your research. Whatever anyone says, do your research. Whether it's spiritual, do your research. Whether it's some of the crazy conspiracy theories going on out there, do your research. Stuff to do with 5G and that people coming out with. Do not discount it. Everything has a place and a reason why it's coming into your awareness. Do your research. Doubts or whatever about illnesses, sicknesses, things like that. Do your research. Don't just take people's word for it. Do your own research. Come to your own knowingness about it. Come to your own knowingness about it, definitely. So, a couple of things for you guys to research. There's something called the Melchizedek Cycle, and it's a 12-year cycle, and it's when this happens when Jupiter goes into Aries. So The next one, and this is why I came up with the date 2023, the next Melchizedek cycle starts in 2023. So I do believe we will receive with these blueprints information to do with, or there will be alignment with 2023. There is another cycle, and it's to do with the actual full moon in Scorpio, and it's a 19-year cycle. Again, I don't know lots of information on it. Do some research. That's called something. Of course it's called something. Everything's called something. It's called the Great Wesak, WESAK cycles. The Great Wesak cycles. Research that. The next one is 2027. That is again why I feel that 2027 is an important date. So your important dates or time frames are the next 6 to 18 months, 2023 and 2027. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to read you, I'm going to quote you this. This is from earthchakras.org, and I think the man's name is Robert Kuhn. And this is what he wrote, I think, probably a good 10 years ago or so. There is a legend about the lost chord of creation. So this is something for you all to research as well. The lost chord of creation. Somewhat like the story of the Holy Grail. If 3 lost notes could be found and sounded together, then the world will unveil its eternal nature, and all things mortal will vanish. It is possible to reconstruct this lost chord by working with the earth's chakras. Listen for the sound of praise emanating from chakra 7, the crown chakra, Mount Kailash. Hear the note of love sounding from chakra 4, the world's heart chakra. The world's heart chakra is here in the UK, Shrewsbury, or Shaftesbury even, Somerset, Glastonbury, Avebury. Then hear the sound of the joyous Thanksgiving singing from Chakra 3, Uluru and Katachuta. I can't say that. Someone needs to teach me how to say that. They are in Australia. Have the creativity and wisdom to combine these 3 notes into one form and then regenerate the world. So view these lost chords from the Earth's crown chakra, from the Earth's heart chakra, and from the Earth's solar plexus chakra. Have the creativity and the wisdom to combine these into one, and then you regenerate the world. If you think about it, your crown, this is the connection to divine energy. So I ask you, do you connect with your crown? Not when you want something, not when you want to manifest something. You can manifest whatever you want from here, from the third eye. Do you connect with your crown connection, with the divine? Do you do that? It's supposed to be there in everyday life. Even as spiritual communities, we have lost this crown connection. And there are so many people running spiritual businesses. There are so many people, or what would be deemed as spiritual businesses. There are so many people who are partaking in spiritual practices daily, weekly, monthly, going to these great big spiritual events. Yeah, is anyone really connecting, not just once in a while, daily with that crown connection? It's key. It is literally key to bring and activate everything here, so that everything here in this earthly world comes into balance, flow and harmony. What I then thought of was in terms of that solar plexus chakra. in Australia. You all remember I've spoken about this less than 2 weeks ago. The fires in Australia. Now, what I discovered is that when everything goes tits up in down under, basically, that's our signal that the system is failing. Yeah. So the earth let us know, because if you look at the situation we're in now, the earth let us know that everything was going to shit. It's quite funny when you think about it. We were told in January, and basically that solar plexus is all about the maintenance and the vitality of global health. Global health. Yeah, so just really take that in. The solar plexus of the earth in Australia is all about the maintenance of global health and vitality. And when things fall apart there, it all comes crashing down. It shows that the system is kaput. I then thought about the heart chakra, us here in the UK, the heart chakra of the earth. The lungs of the earth. And one of the things, if we're looking on a physical level, and that whether you really feel the whole thing with the virus or not, irrespective, whatever is going on, much of it is impacting on an acute level. That's a massive another thing for another day, because I've been doing weeks worth of research since lockdown on a chemical composition level. But affects the lungs situated in the heart. Now, what came through to me was, if we look at Australia, so right, fair enough, we got this message of what's happening. And if you think about even last year, the different fires raging across the world, different messages coming up. If we'd connected with these blueprints last year, maybe we would have been told, not maybe, I'm sure we would have been told that this was on its way. Now, what I then started thinking about was what came to me, and this is where I feel this blueprint is then going to be leading us. Australia, the Aborigine people who have been, I don't even have words for how they've been treated. And what had happened around October time was that Uluru was a massive tourist location. Uluru, the solar plexus chakra of the earth, was a massive tourist location. And it's sacred land. So just the same way that the crown chakra of the earth, Mount Kailash, is sacred and it's deemed an offence to the spiritual realm to be climbing it, the same in terms of Uluru in Australia. It's an offence to be climbing it. So what was coming to me was this. Oh no, sorry, I'm losing my point for a minute. Right, so what had happened in October is that they had finally got the go ahead. If I'm thinking right, it was October. That was it. There was it was something like the 21st of October last year. That was the last day any tourist was going to be allowed to climb up. Jade, I'm recording it on YouTube, so I'm praying that it properly records, or I'm recording it so it can go on YouTube. Except I'm not looking at the camera at all in the YouTube one. So yeah, hopefully once it's done, I can send you a link. So basically, around 21st of October or something like that last year, that was the last day tourists could climb Uluru. What we've then had, so that was that, them kind of getting a part of their culture, their essence, their being, all of that stuff back. The Aborigines, sacred people, sacred people. And then things like the fires and everything start, yeah? What I then thought was about the UK, the heart chakra of the earth, And when we look at the abuse of the Aborigines in Australia, it's a direct link to the UK. It's an awful atrocity of people, but directly linked to the UK in the past, 150 years? Am I right in giving it that sort of ballpark figure? I then started thinking, how in this heart chakra, how do we reconcile this abuse? How does the UK reconcile that abuse of the solar plexus? I don't know if anyone else can feel that. How do we reconcile this? And the answer was, you give back the earth to the divine people. You give the earth back to the indigenous to manage. That is what we do. That is what is supposed to happen. It goes back to the indigenous. It goes back to the divine people. And that's just one little element. And I kind of thought to myself, well, like, why am I getting this? Because this is deep shit. Like, let's be real. This is deep stuff. Like, why am I being told all of this now? Like, literally downloaded minute after minute, second after second, so quickly in the space of an hour before coming online to you all. And okay, so I feel the reason for this is why. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background. My educational background is my university education is Spanish and Latin American studies. And so there's a reason I'm saying this, because again, I believe it relates to the Earth blueprint, the annual blueprints that are going to be released. My university education is Spanish and Latin American studies. Now, when you study Spanish and Latin American studies, then it's a degree that in the past few years they have decided to cut, because you learn too much stuff that could make you want to go and change the world. And I was more I grew up, come from quite an activist family. And my mum had done Spanish and Latin American studies. My parents were quite political. I won't go into stories about my dad, because that involves a whole different kettle of fish altogether. Anyway, so in terms of Spanish and Latin American studies, the first things that you start to learn about is the transatlantic slave trade. So what we're looking at is a complete abuse of an entire hundreds of years of millions and millions of people. A complete displacement of people taken from a sacred land, Africa, let's say, over to another sacred land. But by the time they're taken over to this sacred land, what has already happened is 1492, the discovery of the Americas. Is the connection going strange? If anyone else can see what's going on with the connection, do let me know. So what you're looking at is 1492, that discovery of the Americas, and basically the consequent decimation of whole tribes across the Caribbean islands, across Central America, the whole of South America, an absolute rape and pillage of resources. Thank you everyone for sending the energy to clear it. If it goes funny again, do let me know, and hope or start clearing it for me. So what you were looking at is 1492, a complete a decimation of tribes, of sacred tribes, of the land, rape, pillage of all the resources of the land. That's when it began. And if you think we are still raping and pillaging the land right across the world, that is when it began, 1492. The displacement, as I say, in terms of the transatlantic slave trade, you then kind of go a couple hundred years ahead, and all the stuff to do with India, and then all different Then I suppose the raping and pillaging of the land of Africa. Displacement of people from the Kingdom of India and that as well, them being taken as indentured labourers over to the Caribbean. And you then have America, so again I suppose around kind of the 1700s or so, you're then looking at actual North America and the decimation of those Native American tribes. We then get to the 1800s and the decimation and everything of then the indigenous tribes in Australia, so right across the world. And I then thought to myself, okay, so at the moment, those, if you think what I'm talking of is Europeans doing that, but what happened before 1492? Before 1492, what we had is 1095, if I'm thinking right, to 1492, the Crusades, which was the driving out of different religious groups or across Europe. What we then have is, and I suppose it's within that time, the real killing down and everything, and the real smothering down of paganism. And all the different forms of paganism that there was right across Europe. What we then have from 1450 until 1750 is the witch hunts. All the witch hunts hunting again. The witch hunts, the pagan witches working with the land. So all of those sacred tribes, sacred people who work with the land have been systematically wiped out, dampened down, told to stop, scared, so they've had to stop. Yet magically, oh goodness me, it's breaking up again. Right, let's see if it works better there. Let me know how it is. Oh, sugar, what's that? Right, water actually. I need a bit of water because I'm thirsty. Sorry, guys. Right, so what we have is I suppose the ones that we really know, or for me that I knew about, well, not until I was in my 20s and went to university, was the whole thing of that takeover of the world, of stopping people farming the way, because one of the things that happened immediately when Columbus and his people reached the Caribbean was the farming system that the Taino Indians used to use. That was stopped. They were like, no, don't do that anyway, do our way. And all in the name of Christianity, all in the name of religion, this was all done. And if you think right across everything, right across Europe, in terms of the pagans and that, it was all done in the name of Christianity and in the name of religion, basically. So that stopping people, and that is actually what killed many of those the Tainos, the indigenous population of what would be now Cuba. It was their way of farming, the way they worked the land, and that they weren't allowed to do it. They literally were told they weren't allowed to, by these strangers, that they weren't allowed to farm like that. So our ways of the land, the way we care for Mother Earth, the way we honour Mother Earth by working with nature's cycles, this is what we're being called to do. And that whole thing with that lost chord of creation. And it's what, so then the world, so it's when those lost chords of creation are found, then the world will unveil its eternal nature and all things mortal will vanish. It doesn't mean that we're going to vanish. If we continue the way we are, if whatever's going on is allowed to take hold, yeah, it's quite likely we will vanish. But in terms of all things mortal vanishing, it's that way of being. Now I'm going to. I haven't even got my glasses. Okay, so I'm gonna read this. So this is what I wrote at the beginning of the year, 1st of January, and it was while those fires were raging in Australia. And first of all, I'd read something in 2009 that a lady, I don't know who she is or anything, called Renisha Newton had written. And it said, I won't say it with the American accent, you know, when they write Jarl. So I won't say Jarl because I'll sound a bit silly. But it says, you all aren't aware of certain people's spiritual realm. A lot of you all bring in hell to, I do need to say y'all front doors, because you're attempting to hex divine children and people who are specifically sent here with certain soul missions which affect global consciousness. I'm going to read that again without being silly. You aren't aware of certain people's spiritual realm. A lot of you all bring in hell to your front door because you're attempting to hex divine children and people who are specifically sent here with certain soul missions which affect global consciousness. Now, my thoughts on this were, and this was 1st of January while those fires were raging in Australia. Hexing means the rape and pillage of sacred lands. Hexing isn't just that some dumb little girl stirring at a pot trying to do a spell on you because she's jealous or whatever. Hexing means the rape and pillage of sacred lands that belong to sacred people. Hexing is the abuse of indigenous people of the earth. They have inhabited for thousands of years. Hexing is even, wait for it, spiritual cultural appropriation with a no known lineage. No lineage. There are people there practicing, delivering this work with no lineage, not paying homage to the divine, not connecting with the great Mother Earth. And I'll continue what I wrote. It's time for the indigenous to take the lead, to stand in their power and their birthright. The ancestors will do what they have to do until this happens. And it may die down for a few months, but the following year, it will be worse. Now, as I wrote that, I was thinking that we were talking of natural disasters and things like that. I didn't realise this is what was coming in. More fires, more earthquakes, more natural disasters. Yet, more light shone on those who continue to uphold a colonial reign of thievery, disproportionate distribution of wealth, and a complete disregard of the land, our Mother Earth. And there we have something to do with the blueprints that are about to be released. The indigenous. We think of the indigenous and the sacred lands as those places in North America, Machu Picchu and the people, the indigenous communities there. In Australia, the Aborigines, that indigenous community there, indigenous communities in Africa, in Asia, in all different places. We forget that here in the UK, there is an indigenous community, that all you pagan witches are the indigenous of the land. And I can feel you all now. It's incredible. It's an incredible time. It is amazing. It will be amazing, provided that we do the work. We have had many calls to action. This is not a time to sit back. We can't sit back any longer. Whatever these blueprints tell us and show us, we have to do what we can I don't know if we're going to be shown a really marvellous blueprint or if we're going to be shown a serious series, because as things stand at the moment, there are numerous timelines that are possible. We don't know the future. We have not been shown it. I don't believe any psychic in the world has seen what the definite timeline is. There is the energy. There's timelines are still trying to crash down, and that there are numerous available, and it depends on us. It depends on us as humanity. I think we do need to recognise that there are many different soul groups. There will be soul groups working, the indigos and that, where the stuff they're working on may be like, it may seem like a lot of rubbish to you or whatever. Do not discount anything that any soul group is doing. They're working on a different frequency to you. Your frequency that you're working on is the work for you to do. And it's that 6 to 8 month timeline that I see where it all comes together, because I think ultimately whatever timeline we're working on, whatever frequency whatever frequency we're working on, whatever soul group we're aligned with, our ultimate goal is the same: for there to be peace, for there to be love, for light to be shone on those who were no good, for those who have done wrong, not just now, for those who have done wrong for thousands of years, from when they started taking the land away from our ancestors, from when they started destroying the land. If you think every mineral that is taken out of the land, the same way we have those minerals within us, can you imagine shungite, Russia, carbon is. The percentage of carbon, especially in elite, 92 to 98% carbon. Most of our bodies are made up of carbon. That shungite acts like an antioxidant. It don't protect you from 5G. No one knows what protects them from 5G yet. It acts like an antioxidant, yeah? Shungite. Yet, wouldn't it have a greater effect if it was left where it was in the earth? The fact that it's being pulled out, extracted at such a great weight, that imbalances the earth, that causes an issue. That's just one thing. The sage that is over harvested and becoming extinct, the Californian white sage, that is sacred to those Native Americans, those who are indigenous to that area, and we use it like God knows what. Yeah, just because we can, because it's spiritual consumerism, it doesn't count. Yet we can grow a load of sage in our gardens here, and it doesn't have to do all of those air miles to get us to here, which again is that whole effect of destroying the land. So this is about Mother Earth. This is majorly, there'll be, we will receive stuff to do with our own personal blueprint in relation to all of this, I believe. There will be very personal stuff for everybody, I'm sure. But this is massively collective, this release of the Earth's blueprints or the annual, I keep calling them the Earth's, but they are the Earth's blueprints, aren't they, ultimately? But these annual blueprints, they are massively about what is going on collectively, and to ensure that we all not just align, but do the work we have to do to bring through the correct timeline. As the spiritual community, I believe we need to be working more heavily with each other. Lots of people get different messages through. Sorry, just help me to look. Yeah, it's cool. Just making sure my Orion candle weren't going crazy. lots of people get messages through. I'm sure people get stuff through daily. Yet we keep it to ourselves. We can't figure out where stuff's going if we keep it to ourselves. Or we even put it out. We put it out, and then that's how you kind of see that you're in alignment. Like, oh, that person wrote that. Oh, well, I did have the right idea. That kind of thing. We need to be coming together and speaking and figuring it out. What do we do? We're powerful. We're magical. We have the ability to heal people. Yeah, and we try and play small on it. Oh, I literally up to a few months ago, I was still playing small. Oh, I don't really work on a physical level. I can heal people, big time heal people. Yeah, literally in an hour. And I know many of you can. We can't play small in this. We have the power to do this. We have the power to create the shift and bring in the timeline that needs to come in. Because some of the timelines I've seen, I don't want. And I'm sure if any of you have seen some of the timelines, you don't want as well. Some of the timelines are not nice at all. They ain't coming in. They ain't coming in on my watch. And I'm calling you lot all onto my watch, basically. So I'm going to leave it there because I'm really thirsty. And actually, before I go, has anyone got any questions? Sorry, I'm drinking water from a plastic bottle. Anyone got any questions? Oops. Oh, sugar, what have I done? Oh, that's fine. Thank you so much, Jade. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Watching me on my big old rant. Okay, so just to sum up, that release of the Earth's blueprints, they happen 90 minutes, not the Earth's, the annual blueprints, they happen 90 minutes, that crown chakra opens up, and it happens 90 minutes before the full moon in Scorpio is at 100%. That will be it's at 10:45 a.m. in the morning on the 7th that it's at 100%, and it is going to be at 9:15 in the morning. 9:15 in the morning is that 90 minutes before. Jade, where's the best place to anchor? Do you know what? I think the weather's going to be really nice and sunny. The garden, grass. Yes, the garden, definitely the garden. Not indoors, out in the garden, trees, nature. Susie Boo, thank you so much. But yes, in terms of anchoring in, I'm getting nature, be outdoors. It's going to be sunny. So 9:15 in the morning, or check in a bit early. And then it's at culmination point, 100%, the full moon in Scorpio at 10:45 in the morning. Obviously, in the evening, do all your nice full moon stuff. I'll be honest with you, there's too much energy going on at night time when it's a full moon. It's like the whole world's doing it these days. So, yeah. Just to let you know, thank you, makes a lot of sense because I just finished researching Thymus Gland for some reason. There has been also, talking of the thymus, and I suppose if you're thinking of the Thymus Chakra, otherwise known as the higher heart, literally in the past 7 days there's been two major activations going on. One of them has been the heart chakra, so the higher heart chakra. So there's been an incredible higher heart chakra activation going on, or Thymus Chakra, over the past, I'd say, do you know what? Yesterday, the major activation. The other activation that I would say was more focused on last week was the solar plexus, a major activation of the solar plexus into our new light body solar plexus, which I'm getting doesn't look like a solar plexus sign anymore. It's insane. It's gold. It's incredible. So anyone with loads of solar plexus going on, work going on last week, major activation went on there. Also, this Sunday I am doing Chakra Sunday. I do Chakra Sundays every Sunday, 11 o'clock. And this week it's the Throat Chakra. And that Throat Chakra is about our truth. And I will be talking of the Earth's Throat Chakra. So we're looking at our truth. And it's in that Throat Chakra that once there's that stability in the throat chakra, that the activation into the light body starts to happen. And I believe that's the activation process I'm going to be going through. I did do massive, I feel, heart chakra, high heart chakra activations on Sunday. They literally blew me away, even though I was doing them. And but on Sunday, it's going to be the throat chakra. There will be an activation. They'll probably tell me an hour before what I'm doing. It's incredible. I will. Do you know what? I haven't done the link yet, but I will do, Christy. I will send you the link. If anyone wants the link for Chakra Sundays, it's only a free $33 donation if you're able to. If you're not able to, don't worry. Just still ask me for the link. And what else is going on? Oh, the other thing going on for all of those with spiritual businesses is I'm going to be doing on this Monday, again I haven't sorted out the link for Zoom, but this Monday 7:30 the UK Spiritual Hour, Spiritual Businesses Networking. So this will be our second one, and that's 7:30 in the evening on Monday. And I'm going to say, anyone else got any other questions? Thank you, Amber. Thank you so much. Thank you, Infinity 8 Therapy. I hope I've said that right. Thank you, Susie Boo. Thank you so much, Jade. Thank you, Christy. Boho Banshees. Thank you, everybody. If there's anyone I haven't said thank you to personally, thank you. Thank you all. Have a really beautiful evening. I will be doing a post as well on the normal page, probably tomorrow, on the whole full moon in Scorpio. So just in case you need to remember any little bits, but it's time for us to take the land back, girls and boys. Oh, yes. So watch replay, Lara. Plus, I am going to, I'm going to put it on YouTube, except I don't look at the video at all on YouTube. That's going to be a really weird video. But it doesn't matter. It's cool. Guys, thank you so much. Love you all, and have a beautiful evening. And a beautiful rest of the week. Enjoy this energy. Enjoy the energy. Don't try too hard if nothing comes. If you feel like you physically can't feel anything coming through, stuff's coming through. Whether you can feel it or not, stuff is coming through. You don't necessarily have to feel it. So don't beat yourself up if you feel like, my God, nothing's happening. For some people it will. For some people it won't. Just relax in the energy. Just absolutely relax in the energy, and enjoy. Yeah. Thank you all. Very, very grateful for everyone who stayed around and listened to me.